Checkmark. Have you ever heard a lullaby echoing softly down the hallway of an abandoned hospital? A faint, gentle lullaby, unclear who it's from, or who it's for. But every night, at the same exact time, it plays, steady, haunting. The bus from Saigon shook and rattled for more than 3 hours before finally dropping off a group of senior nursing students in a remote town deep in Dong Nai province. It was October, and a fine drizzle fell through the gray sky. The national highway was caked in red mud, and the moment they stepped off the bus, the smell of damp earth hit them like a wave. Quan was the first to jump down, dragging an old suitcase behind him. He clicked his tongue. God, this place is creepy. I thought we'd be doing our internship at some decent hospital, not dumped in the middle of nowhere. Han followed closely behind, nearly slipping in a puddle. Stop complaining. As long as we graduate on time, it's worth it. And I heard there are only a few patients here, just a 2-week rotation. Locke, completely unfazed, pulled out his phone and started snapping pictures. Take pics, everyone. What if this place is really haunted? I'll make it into my first ghost vlog, guaranteed viral. Tran glanced over, unimpressed. You better worry about yourself first. Even the driver shook his head when he found out where we were going. We should take that as a warning. They walked a few more 100 meters before reaching the old iron gate of the hospital. A rusted sign hung loosely, barely readable. Dong Nai Health Station, Auxiliary Facility, established 1972. The gate creaked open, revealing a row of rundown single-story buildings. The paint was peeling in large patches. Vines crept along the hallway walls, and the light inside was dim, even though it was midday. They were greeted by Ms. Men, a nurse in her late 50s. Thin, wrinkled, but with sharp eyes. She didn't smile, just nodded slightly and led them to the on-call room. We're short-staffed, so you'll have to manage. You'll all sleep here, girls on the left, boys on the right. Lock the door at night. Don't wander around, especially don't go to the 3rd floor. Quan frowned. Wait, there's a 3rd floor? I thought this was it. Ms. Men looked at him, her gaze darkening. There is, but it's been abandoned for years. No one goes up there, especially not room number 7. I won't say more, just listen to what I've told you. Try to sleep well tonight. Locke raised an eyebrow. Saying it like that just makes us more curious. Why not tell us what actually happened? She sighed, voice dropping to a whisper. Something bad happened there, decades ago. The ones who stay long enough know. You're only here for a short rotation. Knowing this much is enough. That afternoon, the group began adjusting to the hospital's slow pace. The place felt lifeless. About 10 elderly patients spread across 2 wings, all with mild conditions, waiting for transfer or basic care. The facilities were bare bones, the lights dim and yellowish, and machines made a constant buzzing noise. But the strangest part was the stairwell to the 3rd floor, always padlocked. From the outside, the upper rooms still had doors, windows, balconies, completely intact, but sealed off. That first night, the 4 of them unrolled mats on the old tile floor of the on-call room. Cold wind whistled through the cracked windows. Locke pulled out his phone, setting it to vlog mode. Alright folks, first night in the abandoned hospital. Rumor has it there was a fire here. People died, but no one ever confirmed it. Tonight, I'm leaving my phone out in the hallway to see if anything weird shows up. Tran rolled her eyes. You're being ridiculous. Locke, if something actually happens, you'll be the first to cry. Stop messing with things we don't understand. Locke grinned. Come on, how can you study medicine and still be scared? Han spoke softly. I'm not afraid of ghosts. I'm afraid of people, especially the ones who used to be here, and then just disappeared without a trace. I heard there was a woman who gave birth here once. She died. No one ever found out what happened to the baby. Silence fell over the room. A strong gust blew through, rattling the door. From the hallway came a soft, dragging sound, like footsteps on old tiles. Quan sat up. Did you hear that? Footsteps. Maybe the security guard? Tran clutched her blanket. What kind of guard walks around without a flashlight or saying a word? Just open the door a crack. Quan slowly stood and cracked the door open just enough to peek. The hallway was empty. Fluorescent lights flickered, no one in sight. And then, from the far end of the hallway, came a sound. Soft, rhythmic. Hush, little baby. Don't you cry. Mommy's near. She's close by. A child's lullaby. Delicate, thread thin, echoing through the empty hospital. Tran bolted upright, face pale. Han covered her ears and curled into a corner. Locke stammered, No way, who's singing? Quan slammed the door shut, hands trembling. No one's out there, no one. But, did you guys see the white figure at the end of the hallway? Silence. Only the wind howled, and that broken lullaby continued to echo in their minds. The next day, rain poured non-stop. The sky was a dull, inky gray, and the light slipping through the window barely lit the room. It couldn't chase away the damp, musty air inside the hospital. The group woke up exhausted, dark circles under their eyes. No one had slept well after the night before. Locke was the first to speak as they sat around slurping instant noodles in the on-call room. Hey, did anyone save that video I recorded last night? I swear I saw the white figure. But when I checked my phone, nothing was there, just a frozen screen. Then the video turned completely white. Creepy as hell. Tran sighed. I told you not to mess with that stuff. Just because you can't see something doesn't mean it's not real. Tonight, everyone sticks to the schedule. No wandering off chasing ghosts. Han had been quiet until then. But suddenly she asked in a low voice, Did you guys know what actually happened in this hospital? I'm not sure of the full story. But this morning, one of the patients, an old woman named Mrs. 2 in the last room, called me over and asked if I'd heard someone singing a lullaby in the hallway. She said there was once a woman who died during childbirth here, and never got the chance to deliver her baby. Quan looked up. A mother? You think this has something to do with room number 7? Han nodded gently. That's what she said. She was here back in '95. There was a fire in the maternity ward. The mother's body was never fully recovered. No one ever found the baby either. After that, they locked the 3rd floor, especially room number 7. At first they said it was for renovation. Then they just shut it down completely. Everyone who went up there experienced something strange. The group went silent. Outside, the rain kept falling steadily, each drop tapping the tin roof like an erratic heartbeat. Locke, after rummaging through a cabinet, pulled out an old blueprint. I found this in the records room. It's the floor plan for the 3rd level. Room 7 is at the very end. Next to it is an on-call room, a storage closet, and a women's restroom. I'm thinking, tonight we go up there. Just one of us with a flashlight. Film a short video. That's all we need, to prove something's really going on. Tran's eyes widened. Are you out of your mind? They told us not to go up there. Why stir things up? What if something actually happens? Locke shrugged. Then I'll go alone. No one else has to come. But I need answers. I can't stand this half-believing, half-doubting stuff. Quan shot him a look, somewhere between irritation and worry. If something really does happen, what's your plan? Do whatever you want. Just don't drag us into it. Tonight, the rest of us should focus on getting some real sleep. But what Quan didn't know was that later that night, while everyone slept, a faint creaking echoed from the hallway. The door to the 3rd floor had opened. No one woke up in time to stop Locke. Only the soft beam of his flashlight remained, and that lullaby. It came again, closer this time, so close. It was whispering right next to his ear. Locke didn't return to the on-call room until just before dawn. When Quan woke up, still half asleep, he saw Locke crouched at the foot of the bed, his eyes wide open. Hugging his knees, body trembling, Quan rushed over. Where were you all night? Do you have any idea how worried we were? We thought something happened to you. Locke stammered, his voice hoarse like someone who'd been screaming for hours. I went up to the 3rd floor, room 7? I don't remember much. Someone called my name. Clear as day. It was like they were whispering right next to my ear. Every word, one by one. Tran gasped and grabbed Locke by the shoulders. Who called you? What did they say? What kind of voice was it? Locke looked up. His eyes were glazed over, blank for a second before he spoke. It started with the lullaby, same one from the first night. Then I saw the door to room 7 slightly open. I went in. It was pitch dark, but there was something lying on the bed, covered with a white cloth. I didn't even get to turn on the flashlight before I heard a woman whisper, "Locke, you've come back, haven't you?" I ran, but I couldn't find the way out. It felt like I was going in circles. I didn't make it back until sunrise. Han whispered. It was her, the mother from the story, calling for her child, but she called the wrong person. No one laughed anymore. That morning, none of them could eat. As they passed Mrs. Tu's room, the old patient who had mentioned the haunting, she motioned Han to come closer. Last night, she sang again, but this time, she was crying. The lullaby kept breaking, like she was looking for someone who wouldn't answer. I heard her ask, "Where are you, child? Why won't you speak to me?" Han nodded politely and walked away. Face pale, Tran gently took her hand and said quietly, "We need to find out who this woman really was. I don't believe in ghosts, but I believe if someone dies with injustice in their heart, their soul won't rest." That afternoon, the group dug through the old records room. Inside a stack of yellowed papers, they found an incident report from 1995. It described a woman named NTL, 28 years old, who had gone into labor while temporarily staying near the clinic. No family accompanied her. Attending doctor, Tran Van Quang. The delivery was unsuccessful. The mother died from hemorrhaging. The infant's whereabouts were never determined. The hospital sealed the records after a fire broke out. Quan frowned. What do they mean, infant's whereabouts unknown? A baby can't just disappear. Either it died and someone covered it up, or someone took it. Locke added, still visibly shaken. In room 7, I saw something wrapped in a cloth. Small. It looked like a newborn. I only glimpsed it for a second. But I swear, it wasn't a dream. Tran shivered. What if the baby was never buried? What if it's still in that room, with its mother? That evening, Ms. Men pulled Quan aside in the hallway and spoke in a hushed tone. Last night, a nurse on duty said she heard someone calling your names. Especially Locke's. If it happens again, don't answer. When the dead call the name of the living, it's because they want someone to go with them. Quan nodded, but a cold chill ran down his spine. That night, they locked the door tight and huddled together on the cold tile floor. Around 2 a.m., while everyone was half asleep, Locke suddenly sat up, eyes still shut, muttering in his sleep, "Mom, I'm cold, don't leave me alone, please don't." Then he leaned forward, crawling slowly toward the door. Quan sprang up, grabbed him, and yelled, "Locke, wake up, you're sleepwalking." Locke's eyes flew open. He was drenched in sweat, glancing around in panic before whispering a single sentence that silenced the whole room. "I saw her standing at the foot of my bed, holding her baby, calling each of our names, clear as day." Silence. Then the lullaby started again. But this time, it said Han's name. Each word echoed like it was coming from inside room 7, the room whose door had been shut for years, but never truly closed. 3 days after Locke's sleepwalking episode, no one in the group was joking around anymore. Their steps grew more cautious, eyes often darting toward the staircase padlocked shut, the one leading to the 3rd floor. Locke, in particular, looked noticeably pale and hollow, barely eating or speaking, as if part of his soul had yet to return. Han asked Tran to join her in the storage room to comb through old records again, this time determined to check every file. While digging through a dusty cabinet, Tran uncovered a moldy, leather-bound notebook with handwritten words on the cover. Night Shift Journal, Dr. Tran Van Quang. They exchanged glances, then opened it. The handwriting was messy, but they could still piece together fragments of its disturbing entries. The woman, L, arrived without ID, without family, clutching a blood-soaked cloth bundle. The delivery was abnormal. The child didn't cry, didn't move, its eyes didn't look like a newborn's. It opened its eyes and stared at me, like an adult. I was afraid of that newborn. The mother died right after giving birth, but when the nurse arrived, her body was gone, only a burnt smell remained, like scorched flesh. They covered it all up, told me to stay silent, but every night, I still hear lullabies echoing from the 3rd floor. I believe she never left. Tran clenched Han's hand. It's not just rumors. That mother and child, they were real. And they're still here. Meanwhile, out in the hallway, Kwan was speaking with Mrs. Tu. She was knitting, eyes distant, voice calm as if recounting someone else's story. Back then, Miss L was a stranger. I think she was from an ethnic minority. Her belly was huge, but no one knew who the father was. She said something terrible had happened in her village, that she ran away. When she was brought in, she wouldn't let anyone touch the cloth she was holding. She paused. That night, the power went out. Then a fire broke out, no one knew from where. People said they saw a white shadow running down the hallway, holding a baby, hair down to her waist. Kwan swallowed hard. And, what about the baby? Ma'am? Mrs. Tu stopped knitting and turned toward him. Her cloudy eyes still glinted with a strange coldness. No one ever found the child. But in the burnt remains, someone saw a half-charred cloth, and inside, it was still warm, like someone had just walked away. After that, no one dared stay on the third floor. Every night, there'd be singing, crying, but come morning, nothing. That afternoon, Locke screamed mid-nap, bolting upright. She said, "My baby, give me back my baby. I don't have it, I'm not your child." Kwan, Tran, and Han had to hold him down, pressing a cool cloth to his forehead, forcing him to drink water until he calmed. Tran burst into tears. "We can't just let this go on. If that mother's spirit is still here searching for her child, then we have to help her. At the very least, find out what really happened that night." Kwan nodded. "Then tonight, we go back to the third floor. But this time, no one goes alone, and we take Dr. Kwang's journal with us. Maybe she just needs someone to finally hear her." At 2 a.m., the group returned with flashlights. When they pushed on the rusted padlock, it fell off effortlessly, as if the door had been waiting. Inside, the third floor was pitch black. The smell of mildew and faint burnt ash hung in the air. They stepped slowly, each footstep echoing as if someone else were walking behind them. The door to room 7 was ajar. No one spoke. They looked at each other and entered. A rusted iron bed stood in the center of the room. On it, a faded cloth had been neatly folded. With trembling hands, Tran stepped forward and began reading aloud the journal entry from the night of the 1995 birth. The air grew colder with each sentence. A breeze came from nowhere, snuffing out their flashlights. In the darkness, the lullaby began again, but this time, it was steady, unbroken, and filled with anguish. "Hush, little one, mommy's home now, sleep. My child, I'm not leaving again." Han wept. Locke dropped to his knees, murmuring over and over, please forgive us, please forgive us." Then they saw her, a woman standing in the far corner, hair long and covering her face. In her arms, a small bundle wrapped in cloth. She stepped forward, slowly, and spoke. "My children, have you seen my baby? Is he still here?" She stood there, her voice raspy like wind howling through an old door crack. "Please, help me, find my baby." Kwan stepped forward, shielding the group, gripping the lifeless flashlight in his hand. No one moved. Oddly, no one ran either. It wasn't just fear, it was a heavy sorrow. A sense of haunting empathy. The woman lowered her head, clutching the white bundle tighter, then slowly turned and walked toward the door. As her shadow slipped past the threshold, the flashlight flicked back on, its cold light casting a clear path down the hallway. No more lullaby, no more icy wind, only the sound of their hearts pounding in their chests. Locke gasped for air as if pulled from underwater. Tran sat down, tears streaming down her face. She's not angry, she's just looking for her child. The next morning, as they sat in silence at the nurse station, a stranger arrived. It was an old man, hunched, wearing a conical hat and walking with a cane. Ms. Men gasped when she saw him. "Uncle Nam, you're alive? They said you died in the hospital fire decades ago." The old man gave a weary smile. "Didn't die, just left for a long time. I came back now, to light some incense, for someone I owe." From his pocket, he pulled out a faded, tattered cloth. Tran immediately recognized it. It looked exactly like the one in room 7. The old man said, "She was my cousin. The whole village chased her out for having a child out of wedlock. She came here, asked me for help, but that night, I was on duty in another wing. When I heard about the fire, It was too late. All that was left under the bed was this cloth. They listened in silence, every word like a piece of ash falling into memory. Quan asked, "And the baby? Did anyone see it?" The old man nodded slowly. "Someone said they saw a strange man carrying a baby out during the fire. Could have been someone she trusted, but no one ever found out who. Her soul probably got stuck here, thinking her child is still nearby." Tran asked, "So how can we help her move on?" The old man reached into his pocket again, pulling out a small brass bell and an old black and white photo. This bell was her mother's, used to soothe baby spirits. If you light incense, speak her name, and ring the bell at the exact hour she died, maybe she'll hear and let go. That evening, for the first time, the whole group, along with Ms. Men and the old man, held a simple ritual in room 7. They spread the cloth on the bed, placed the diary beside it, and laid down the photograph. A stick of incense burned slowly. The old man softly recited, "Nguyen Thi Lai, born 1967, passed away October 5, 1995. Then, he gently rang the bell. Its sharp, clear chime echoed as if touching something far beyond their world. No one spoke, but all of them felt lighter. No more lullabies, no more crying, only silence, deep, restful, like the first sleep after decades of waiting. As they left the room, Quan turned back. On the cloth was a small wildflower. Purple, perfectly placed. None of them had brought flowers. None of them knew where it came from. But they all understood. The door had opened, and this time, it was to close for good. They thought everything had ended after that simple ceremony. But no. 3 days later, the weather turned strangely cold. Despite it being the dry season, a thick fog blanketed the hospital entrance every morning. In the duty room, Locke became quiet again, not from fear, but from dreams. Every night, the same dream. He saw himself as an infant, lying alone in a vast white space, hearing a bell echo slowly, one ring, another, then silence. After that came crying, not a baby's cry, but the guttural, gut-wrenching sob of a woman, like something had been ripped from inside her. Han was the first to notice the brass bell was missing. Ms. Men swore she had locked it up carefully after the ritual. But now, both the bell and the key were gone. Quan stood frozen, one question circling in his head. Who, or what, took it? That night, Quan and Tran decided to inspect each room in the old wing. When they reached the storage hall, Tran froze. "Do you hear that?" she whispered. Quan tilted his head. Far away, beyond the broken beds and dusty sheets, came the faint tinkle of a bell. Soft, rhythmic, unmistakable. They moved deeper in. The flashlight scanned the shadows, then stopped. In the center of the room sat a rotting wooden cradle. Inside it was the missing bell. But what made Tran's skin crawl? It was moving, not swinging from wind, not nudged by anyone. It rocked on its own, as if lulling someone to sleep. They ran back to the duty room, breathless and shaking. Locke sat on the floor, eyes wide, pointing at the peeling wall behind Quan. There was nothing there, just old paint. But Locke whispered, "She's been standing there the whole time." She said, "You woke the bell. Now you must lull it back to sleep." The next morning, the old man returned. This time, he brought a red string and a small bag of ashes. "That bell," he said, "was buried with her grandmother. Now that it's been disturbed, the spirit inside isn't at peace. You must perform a lullaby ritual at the exact hour she died. If not, the bell will keep ringing, louder each time, until it's no longer a lullaby, but a call." They chose 3 a.m., the hour between life and death. In room 7, they laid out a mat, placed the bell in the center, scattered the ashes, and lit an oil lamp. Tran took the red string and wrapped it around the bell 3 times. With each loop, she whispered, "Bell for babies, not for vengeful ghosts. Bell for memory, not for wrath. Bell for peace. May you sleep forevermore." Suddenly, the bell rang out, not by anyone's hand. It rang once, then again, then fell silent. The wind stopped, the lamp blew out, the smell of ash vanished, and the room grew warm. Locke burst into tears. He didn't know why. Maybe relief. Maybe because he finally understood. His dream had gone to sleep. No one ever mentioned the bell again. But from that night on, when the world was too quiet, if you passed room 7, you might still hear it. A soft lullaby, gentle and faint, like a mother's voice, singing her child to sleep. For the very last time. Although the bell had been sealed again, the uneasy feeling still lingered, like embers beneath ashes. Locke no longer sleepwalked, but every morning he woke up remembering every word from his dreams vividly and strangely. The words weren't in Vietnamese. It was a language that sounded distant, drawn out, like something echoing from deep within the forest. After hearing this, the old man fell silent for a long while. Then he muttered, "That's the chant of the Cho-Ro people. Her mother's family came from the mountains. If that's the case, the spirit may not have departed because it hasn't been called by the blood tongue." Han's hand trembled as she put down her glass of water. She remembered what old Mrs. Tu had once told her. That baby, when it was born, didn't cry, but its eyes, they were ancient. Like it had already lived a full life. And her mother, Lai the patient, before falling into a coma, had mumbled, "Don't call its name unless you know mine. It won't accept it." Quan stood up and headed to the old records room. It took him nearly 2 hours to find a nearly faded birth certificate. But the mother's name was still visible, Nguyen Thi Lai. Below that, written in trembling red ink, "Child not yet named." Tran whispered, "If the child has no name, the spirit has no identity. No one can call it. No one can send it off." Ms. Men suggested, "Then let's hold a soul-calling ritual. We'll call it by the mother's name. And we'll ask permission to give the child a name, just one name, so the soul knows who it is. So it knows the living remember." The ritual was held in room 7. On a moonless night, everyone wore white and wrapped red cloths around themselves. As the old man instructed, they placed the old wooden cradle in the center, laid a baby cloth on it, along with Dr. Kwong's journal and a wild orchid picked from the hill behind the hospital. At exactly 3 a.m., the old man began chanting in a deep voice. It wasn't Vietnamese. No one understood the words. But everyone felt a chill down their spine, not from fear, but from solemnity. Then Quan stepped forward and spoke on the group's behalf. "Nguyen Thi Lai, on behalf of the living, we call your name to guide you back to the child you bore with your own flesh and blood." Tran approached, placing her hand on the cradle. "If no one has given this child a name, may I call her in? May she rest. May mother and child reunite. May no soul wander in anguish again." Suddenly, the oil lamp flickered. A soft sigh was heard, barely audible. Yet everyone heard it. Then, the orchid dropped to the floor. The baby cloth puffed slightly, as if something invisible had passed through. No one had touched it. But in the dim light, they all saw, on the cradle's surface, a faint, tiny handprint, like a child's hand, freshly pressed. No one dared breathe loudly. Then the lullaby began again, but this time, it wasn't cold or sorrowful. It was peaceful, like a young mother truly holding her child. No longer searching, no longer grieving, only soft lullabies, blending into the night breeze, light as silk. The ritual ended. Before leaving, the old man picked up the orchid, placed it back in the cradle, and whispered, "Mother and child have found each other at last." The next morning, the sky was strangely clear. Soft sunlight streamed through the window of the duty room, casting shadows of tree branches onto the old tiled floor, like the coldest night had never just passed. The whole group woke up in an unusual stillness. No one sleepwalked, no one startled awake. Han opened her eyes, surprised to find herself smiling. A sense of peace filled her, something she hadn't once felt since arriving here. Locke was the first to break the silence. He spoke softly, as if afraid to wake someone. "I dreamed of a woman holding a baby, walking down the hospital hallway. Her hair wasn't tangled or burned anymore. She wore a white ao dye. Her face was clear, and the baby slept peacefully in her arms. She turned to look at me, nodded, then vanished at the top of the third-floor stairs." No one laughed. Tran stood up and walked outside, gazing toward room 7. The door was tightly shut. The lock still hung in place, but on the doorknob was a wilted wild orchid. No one in the group had left the room that night. No one picked orchids at dawn. Quan glanced at his watch. Exactly 7:07 a.m. He turned to Tran and said slowly, 28 years ago. This was the exact time they confirmed Lai and her baby had passed. It was also when the fire on the 3rd floor broke out. Maybe this is the moment she finally left? Ms. Men entered, carrying a cup of hot ginger tea. She set it on the table, her gaze softer than usual. I had a dream too. Last night, I saw room 7 glowing with light and heard a child laughing. I'm old now. I can't tell if it was real or a dream. But I believe maybe everything truly ended. By noon, the group packed their things, ready to leave. Their internship had come to an end, but everyone felt they'd gone through something far deeper, more than just learning a profession. They'd learned how to believe, learned how to feel the silent pain of those forgotten. Before getting into the van, Quan turned around for one last look at the old building. There, under the shade of a tree, sat an old woman, knitting a scarf, eyes gazing toward room 7. She nodded gently at him, and vanished the moment he blinked. A year later, the hospital underwent renovations. The 3rd floor was officially demolished. But at the base of the old room 7 wall, the construction workers unearthed a scorched piece of fabric, with 2 words embroidered in red thread. Mother in. No one could explain why the cloth was buried beneath the floor. But after hearing the story, the site supervisor asked to keep it. He placed it inside a small glass jar, tucked in the corner of the new administrative room. And whenever it rains, if someone happens to lean in close, they might hear a faint lullaby, barely audible, so gentle, like a mother's voice, forever singing her child to sleep, in eternal peace. The next rainy season, the new hospital was fully operational. The administration room was spacious and bright, equipped with security cameras covering every corner. Yet, the glass jar in the room's corner, holding the Mian scorched cloth, remained untouched. Not for spiritual reasons, but as a simple symbol of compassion. Every new staff member was told a brief version of the story. Some believed, some didn't, but oddly enough, no one ever dared to move it. One mid-July afternoon, as the sky darkened with an approaching storm, Dr. Min, the new head of department, called the staff for a meeting. On the monitor, the camera in the 1st floor hallway showed a strange image, the glass jar, gently shaking. No one touched it. There was no earthquake, no wind, but it shook slightly, as if someone was tapping from inside. 3 times. Clearly, Min wasn't superstitious, but as a psychiatrist, he was sensitive to the unexplained. He requested to review footage from years ago, before the 3rd floor was demolished. And there, in a blurred frame, he saw a figure in a white dress standing at the end of the hallway. Her face obscured by light, her hands resting on her belly, as if cradling something. Min told Ms. Men, still working part-time there. She simply nodded. That was when she left. But if the second bell rings, something is still unfinished. Maybe not for her, but for the child. Tran, now a registered midwife, heard the story and returned to the old room. She opened the jar, placed her hand on the cloth. Suddenly, her palm felt warm, strangely warm. And in that instant, she heard, not a lullaby, but something new, a child's laughter, soft, near. Locke, now working at the local health center, called Quan and Han. I dreamed of baby An, but she wasn't a newborn anymore. She looked 3 or 4, running around the hospital courtyard with a tiny bell. She turned to me and asked, "Daddy, where's mommy?" I woke up, and my face was wet with tears. Han whispered through the phone, "It's not over yet. Maybe the mother left, but the child stayed." She never saw her mother one last time. Never had a proper hug. The group returned to the hospital. No rituals, just a new cloth, a stuffed doll, and a small bell identical to the old one. They set it on a table, lit 1 stick of incense. Tran said softly, "If you're still here, Mom has returned. You can follow her now. No more fear. You won't be abandoned again. No wind, no flickering lights, only A bell, softly ringing. Then, silence. They left quietly. But as Han turned back at the gate, she saw a little girl, about 4, in a white dress, standing under a tree, holding a bell, smiling, waving goodbye, then vanishing into the sunlight. That bell never rang again. And so, after years of lingering, the lullaby from room 7, and the silent chime in the old hospital, finally ended. No more mothers wandering through fire for their child. No more lonely babies in the dark. Everyone had been named. Everyone had been properly FAREWELLED. But how many spirits still wait to be heard? How many tears go unnoticed? How many lullabies are left unanswered? If you believe in karma, if you believe the invisible deserves to be seen, then stay with us in Bong Toi Trong Dem, where we share stories long forgotten. Candle, subscribe and turn on notifications. Because sometimes, the darkness isn't just scary. It's where the deepest memories hide. See you in the next story.